Welcome to the Texas Goat Radio Show. I'm your host, Matorius. This is part 3 of the live stream 1728 by Owen Benjamin.
Story, or do you want to see news benders? So you know that this is when people go, you sure? Dude, people have been calling this shit out for decades. If Community Notes was around during COVID.
That's one of the few times that I've ever heard him say that. And one of the reasons why I do believe he's saying that now is because of the pressure that's been applied to him through multiple videos and channels that just simply call him out on his horse hockey.
People would have said to get the vax. Oh, yeah. Let's just watch something really interesting here, shall we? And then we'll talk about Jack got to eat his enemy. Here we go, ladies and gentlemen.
Today, April 14, 1973. First historic pictures by Radstar of the combined U.S.-Russian landing on the moon. Shown here are Majors Webb and Mikhailovich taking their first...
This, I think, is one of the techniques. I have voiced my opinion a little bit on this, but I'm going to not focus on my opinion per se. But really, one of the reasons why I think that he picks topics like this is because it is so divisive. And so if you get people who disagree going back and forth on Twitter or whatever, it just makes more traction. And so that's one of the reasons why I think that he makes statements that are controversial.
Steps into the unknown, firing their retro rockets to land their spacecraft on the dust-covered surface. A comforting note for us stay-at-homes, both the Pentagon and the Kremlin have announced that the moon has no strategic value. A comforting note for us.
That was interesting that they said that has no strategic value.
I can't show you any film on this next model. We haven't photographed it yet. But this is the way it will sound.
June the 22nd, 1973. The State Department releases film of the ultimate weapon, codenamed Icarus. This satellite is equipped with a solid reactor. In layman's terms, it can freeze air solid, stopping all missiles, killing all forms of life. Icarus orbits at the same speed as the Earth, can hang in position over every major city that threatens the peace-loving nations.
Rather proud of this one. Come on. Please, sit down. Sit up.
I'll give commentary in case I need to for copyright reasons, but this is a show from the 70s, and it's basically showing how people are fed something, and a very small amount of people are in the know. And in the beginning of the scene, this gentleman is told that they've inserted something inside him. Oh, how dare you, squirt time. Where they live.
That was unnecessary. I don't know if there was, I mean, there probably was just because of the conditioning of the vulgarity that Owen uses on a day-to-day basis in order to persuade you to think certain ways, certain words. It's a bizarre thing that he does. I was listening to him right there sincerely, and whenever he said insert, obviously I was thinking implant or a variation of that, not what he just did. And I don't know if it's intentional on his part, but it's definitely something that is a dangerous technique. Would I say that he is doing it intentionally? Probably. I have no idea at this moment in time. Some of the things that he says, the motivation is almost irrelevant at this point. Because he's shown enough motivation that you can honestly conclude that the majority of whatever fuels him is based on monetary gain. But that right there, that was a bizarre.
That's something, and a very small amount of people are in the know. And in the beginning of this scene, this gentleman is told that they've inserted something inside him. Oh, how dare you, squirt time.
He just, I mean, what, I mean, that's such bizarre behavior.
Where they listen in on all his conversations, and that they can, you'll see. All right, enjoy.
September the 5th, 1973. A new phase in global warfare. War by example. At 4:32 our time, China took out the remote Indian border village of Dandor, unprotected by the Icarus network. After the first 2 5-megaton H-bombs.
Does anybody know anything about this film? I've never heard of it. Hey, be nice. I've never heard of it.
The 9-way hotline finally switch it off. This is going to happen in 1973. You're going to make this happen.
No. We are going to make models much cheaper. And we photograph the models.
Fake news rings.
Fake news rings for the public.
Oh, we're going to make models. It's much cheaper. We're just going to broadcast it and make everybody think that it's happening. It's one of the techniques that Owen uses, the fear-mongering. They call it fear porn. Because a lot of people get off on it, not sexually get off on it, but emotionally. And it's one of the reasons why he's so interesting, is because, to me, he's interesting. Because trying to understand why people do certain things. Because if you understand it, you can see it coming. I think.
10 years, people have been looking at our fake news reels and listening to our fake commentary.
And they accept it for the truth.
Just real quick, just before they really get into the gravy, let me just show you something real quick. So they make models and fake news reels. Like, I don't know, like this. The fact people on Twitter think that's real, I think, is proof that vaccine is like, it's just not candy, guys. Vaccine is no joke. I mean, fluoride is no joke. It's like sodomy. You don't want to mess around with it. You end up in diapers.
And you can do it. Stop 100 people in the street. How many of them have actually seen a missile or a satellite? They're just told they exist and they believe it.
Yeah, you're getting there. I knew you would.
Well, now the moon rocket and the satellite, that you...
I would like to know what's the name of this movie, the production company of this movie, and who is involved with it.
Get away with that's too remote for people to grasp. It's too far away. But this, I mean, you invented this village on the Indo-Chinese border. Well, somebody could check out.
Very mountainous territory up there. There'll be no survivors in 1973. No rescue work. Radiation scare.
Yes, you can do it. This could be the news for 1973.
Not necessarily exactly like this. We only plan in detail 1 year ahead.
Oh, you only plan 1 year ahead.
Hey, tell me, what is the news item that's bothered you the most in the past year, 1967?
Well, it has to be the new American intercontinental ballistic missile, the Boy Wonder, doesn't it?
Just the one I asked him to set up for you. The new ICBM, codename Boy Wonder. With a...
What was the number one news? What is it? How did he word it? What was the number one news highlight that you personally have been troubled by over the last year? To be honest with you, I've stopped watching the news per se. I've been way happier, honestly. TikTok and Instagram and all that kind of stuff. The news, every once in a while I'll get on there just to see a little bit about what's going on. But I don't trust any of it, to be honest with you. Everyone's got their own agenda, and I'll talk to people, but it just seems like there's always, it's all fear porn. It's all fear mongering and manipulative and just wanted you to be mad at everybody.
Much talked about mercury warhead. I haven't any special effects up here, but perhaps with the proper sound. And Robert Narkin, television director, high IQ, 35 years old, is scared. Scared by nothing. It doesn't work. It's a scientific impossibility. The same goes for the much talked about mercury warhead.
Scientific impossibility.
First fix.
Well, if this rocket doesn't work, then the others...
They have a fireworks party at Cape Kennedy almost every other day. Well, you didn't really believe there were all these things whizzing about up there, did you? Sputniks and rockets. Astronauts crossing their legs for 8 days.
How long has this been going on?
Since
I think it's
Hiroshima.
problematic to pick a movie like this that obviously was allowed to be made and then take it and run with it. I think it's somewhat problematic. Is there truth to it? Sure, but it's the whole thing with what Owen does. He picks universal truths or half-truths and wrap them around a fish hook just to lure people in, real people in, and then that's whenever he starts the wizardry, spellcraft rhetoric that literally makes you dumber. It slows your mind down. And this is in his own words. Slows your mind down, and therefore you're more easily manipulated. And before you know it, you have willingly put on bear goggles and are paying for another man's land in hopes that you may or may not be able to be accepted onto that land. But statistically, more than likely, you won't be, based on historical evidence, of course.
And at the H bomb, that doesn't work either.
Right. Dirty.
Very, very dirty.
What was your first reaction? Relief.
That little guy is more like me. I'm like, why are you not relieved? Why are you not relieved? We're just putting this on. We're putting the show on to keep the retards scared so we control them and
If you go back to my earlier videos, there's times where I sped him up, and it was because, believe it or not, I watched him a little bit more than I am now. I'll go through spurts. Sometimes you got stuff to do and you can't fit it in, and so if you feel like you need to do something, you make time for it. But I used to speed him up in order to help break the spells that he does, the spellcraft, the wizardry, the rhetoric, the cadence. A lot of it has to do with cadence of how you speak. And because he does 3-hour podcasts or live streams, wouldn't say podcasts, live streams. And well, he used to. Now, since the money's dried up a little bit, a lot of it, he's starting to do 1 hour, hour and a half, 2 hour, 2.5. But still, for speaking to people, talking for 3 hours, most people are just listening while they're doing something. And whenever you realize that, and you actually have an agenda and you want something from them, and you know exactly, because he'll tell you that his dad was a professional in rhetoric and wizardry and all that kind of stuff. So he knows certain techniques. And I think one of those techniques is the cadence of how he speaks.
and squirt in them. Why not? Why aren't you not relieved? Like when you tell a Jay, we're still on Twitter. Why are you not relieved? We're just putting this on. We're putting this show on to keep the retards scared so we control them and tax them and squirt in them. Why not? Why aren't you not relieved? Like when
I have no idea what that is. I've got my speculations, but there's got to be something natural within him that just wants to, like from the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaks. You know, I don't think that's something that he has had to train himself to do, rather than it's something that just naturally comes out.
you tell a Jay, we're still on Twitter. When you
And that's one of the greatest things I've ever seen. That was a great gift for being able to do these extensive breakdowns of his videos for at least the first half hour of them, because he's on Twitter and he wants to stay on Twitter, so he obeys the TOS terms of service. Because if you go back before he was on Twitter, it would be almost impossible. especially with the way that I do it, because I do it randomly. Not these, I'm actually breaking them down from the beginning to the end. But whenever I first started doing these a few months back, up until probably about a month ago, I would just randomly pick spots. And the further back you go, the least reliable that is, because you would just pick on, you would get something that you just couldn't put on YouTube, or at least something that I wouldn't put on YouTube.
Tell a group that they aren't the victims of these horrifying international crimes, you'd think that they would be relieved, especially when you show them there is absolutely no possible way it's true. But their feeling is not relief.
Well, there's a problem with that, is because you're trying to convince somebody that something that they know is true. Whether it's true or not, it doesn't matter, but they believe that it's true. And then you're saying there's no way that it could be true. Those are two different absolutes, and I don't know. It's difficult for a human being to make those jumps. And to be honest with you, I don't think Owen really wants to help anybody. I think he just wants to be controversial and go viral and get as much money as he possibly can for the land that he's not going to do what he says he's going to do with it and all that kind of stuff.
Because just like cattle, they get addicted to the fear response. Okay?
Oh, yes. Yes, it has to be relief.
And he said, just like cattle, they get addicted to the fear. How is it just like cattle? How are cattle addicted to the fear response? I thought he was going to make an analogy with the salt, the bricks of salt or something, but that doesn't make any sense to me.
There's Coddington. No, baby.
Ha ha, Coddington, you're a woman. That's a joke from the greatest comedian in the world.
You don't join Sin Up. I know. Sometimes I really do have to fight being like, man, these guys are crushing. That's why every now and then I'm like, man, the Freemasons really do set up a fucking pretty sweet system. And everyone's like, no, Big Bear. I'm like, have you seen my Twitter? These people are fucking retards. I know, but see, then I get off Twitter and I realized a lot of people are still good people and they deserve the truth, and that's why.
Go back to his demoralized episode. I can't remember what the number of it was, but it's demoralized. And I want to say it's around I don't know if it's the one where he's got the Joker as the picture, but it's around that time. And he right after that, he talks about how important it is for you to have an echo chamber. And to a certain point, it is somewhat beneficial, but in the grand scheme of things, to choose an echo chamber over diversive conversation, I don't know if I use that correctly or not, diversive, over interesting and conversation that there's a pushback to, then you need the pushback. You want your views and your opinions challenged, or they're not worth much.
I break spells and I offer I'm like, have you seen my Twitter? These people are fucking retards. I know, but see, then I get off Twitter and I realized a lot of people are still good people and they deserve the truth, and that's why I break spells and I offer
He doesn't break spells. I'm going to repeat this a couple times. He does not break spells. He casts spells. And the proof is in the pudding. He says that he uses certain things in order to break spells, but he doesn't. And one of the most obvious things that he has said over the last week or so, I think it's within the last week, it was on his Instagram, and he got on there, and it was the one where he opens up by calling himself the goat tamer or something. And he says he justifies the reason why he uses such vulgar, perverse, homosexual ridden language. And he says, well, it's because you have to. In order to break spells, you have to use stern language. No, you don't. Stern language does not equal vulgar language. That is not how that works whatsoever. There's a scripture that says don't use foul language, pretty much. And what that or offensive language is probably closer to it. Don't use offensive language. Well, it's pretty much speaking to the room. Know the room you're in. If it's a room that doesn't cuss, don't cuss. If it's a room that does cuss, maybe cuss a little bit. You don't have to, but maybe. One of the guys said that he became all things to all so that he may save some. And although words breathe life or death, cuss words aren't necessarily vulgar, depending on who you're talking to. But the vulgarity in his language is the very, very, what's the word I'm looking for? Articulate way that he explains homosexual acts. There's no reason for that at all. In detail. Phallic objects, the male genitalia.
I offer you seen my Twitter? These people are fucking retards. I know, but see, then I get off Twitter and I realize
everybody that disagrees with them, you'll find there's a general theme. 1, they're retarded. 2, they're PDF files. 3, they are perverted. They pleasure themselves thousands of times a day. That's one thing that he says about his humor. If you don't think that I'm funny, and this is a direct quote from him, if you don't think that Owen Benjamin is funny, then you pleasure yourself 1,000 times a day.
a lot of people are still good people and they deserve the truth, and that's why I break spells and I offer solutions and I do my job well.
Solutions. There's no solutions that he offers at all. Not even one. And I'll say not even one, because he'll say that he does offer solutions. Obviously, he just did. But no, he don't. His solution is send him money. His solution is his app. There's people out there that have been bears that's taken their bear goggles off. They have their own personal stories about the apps, about Owen. And he's not what he says he is. He's not what he claims to be. The solutions that he has is give him money and he'll treat you horribly. That's his solutions.
But of course, there's always a part of me that's like, yeah, I mean, they like it. I mean, they're crazy. Like, you look at a lot of these people and you're like, you're fundamentally crazy. And during COVID, you would have put me in prison because I wouldn't squirt stick inside me. I mean, but again, I'm not going to hate humanity just because there's a lot of heavily traumatized, fluoridated, absolute imbeciles. A lot of them may be AI.
Whenever he says things like that, is he talking about in the real world AI, artificial intelligence, as far as human beings? Or is he just talking about on the internet? It's hard to tell with him sometimes.
Only 12 people are allowed beyond this point. Most of them work in the photographic department, taking phony newsreel pictures of our models and processing film and so on. Sit down, please. Ah, pretty pictures from our stills department. The boy wonder.
Do you really think that missiles and satellites are mild on the country?
No, not at all. I've only shown you the hard news. There are other things, much softer things we thought might interest you. Well,
I've only showed you the hard news. There's much softer, I would say probably easier to digest.
1973. We thought it might be time for an anti-teen.
That's one of the things that he does, because the homesteading, the building your own stuff, taking care of your family, getting married, having children, all of that's easy digest. Like, it's easier to digest. And so that's one of his biggest hooks, hook, line, and sinkers. That's how he reels in the majority of people. is trying to be as genuine. Look at me, guys. You know that I'm blessed by the Lord, because look at my homestead and look at my house that I've built for myself. Look at this land that I have for myself. Look at this greenhouse. Look at my goats and my cows and all my milk and all that kind of stuff. But one thing that he neglects to say is the majority of everything that he has comes from deceit, comes from, I would say, despair, fear-mongering, and convincing people to give him money because he paints himself to be a savior. And that's what he did back in 2020 during the worldwide crisis. And there's been a couple people asking me my opinion on that, and I'm not going to get into that because that's not what this is about. Whenever I say crisis, it was something new that a whole lot of people have never experienced, and I would almost dare say hardly anybody had ever experienced that before. And so you didn't know what tomorrow was going to bring. And so it was a prime opportunity for predators such as Owen Benjamin Smith to leap on their prey and say, hey, come to me. If the things really do, if the proverbial it does hit that fan, I'm going to be here. Give me your money and I will prepare the way for us. Let's do this. Trust me. I promise you I will give your money back if we do not meet our goal. I promise you. And then 3 years later, we see what it is.
Its movement along the way to return to maturity.
Codsworth, what is my episode for the Time magazine cover spell break? If you look at Time magazine covers throughout the years, you can see it's complete.
Spell break. Like I said, Owen does not break spells, he casts spells.
Scripted. They're never been reporting the news. This is absolutely true. And I already covered this years ago on unauthorized.tv.
That's an app or website, whatever you want to call it. It's like a knockoff of YouTube from what I understand. And this is just what I've understood from people that have told me that they have actually subscribed to unauthorized TV. It's almost impossible to unsubscribe. It is I don't want to call it a honeypot, but it is not an honest way of going about it. That's my opinion, because you can subscribe, but there's almost literally no way, there is, from what I understand, from what I've been told, there's no way to unsubscribe. People have had to cancel credit cards and all sorts of things.
I think the Twitter bots are trying to make us think humanity is stupid. I think so too. That's why I have to fight that. I think one of the reasons I was allowed back on Twitter is to make me think that, the world's filled with mouth-breathing people that are like animals that need to be controlled.
Well, to be honest with you, and this is probably an unpopular opinion, but the world is filled with a whole lot of mouth breathers who are just there to gratify themselves in the easiest way. Now, I'm not saying that if you participate in this, that I'm putting you into that, because my dad, who's no longer with us, he would save up his money, and then on Black Friday, he would go get him whatever he saved up his money for. But not in the way that you see in the videos of people acting like animals. And there's a difference. And so there's the people that riot, the people that the gnashing of teeth type of behavior that you see on Black Friday or whatever those sales are. And it's just a crowd of people that are going absolutely crazy for whatever they want. So I'm not saying just because you participate in sales, that makes you that. But there's a whole lot of people out there that do act in that type of way.
Time Magazine's the ultimate grabber mouthpiece. Yeah. Codsworth will get the right thing. And if you're enjoying yourself and you want to support the stream, entropystream.live/app/Owen Benjamin Comedy.
And since he mentioned Entropy, go check out his live stream 1666. And that is the infamous FU and the Lord live stream, to where you see exactly who Owen is and what his opinion is of you when you don't give him what he feels he is owed.
Charity. Perhaps even a religious revival.
Oh, I see. You want me to arrange the grand opening of Ruislip Cathedral, 1st of October, 1973. Mark the date down in my 10-year diary.
We are very serious about you. There are things about you we like very much. Qualities you have to offer. Qualities that we perhaps don't possess at the moment.
That's great. I'll file on you.
That sounds like Owen talking to some of his bears. There's things about you that I very much like. Excavator bear, you actually have a tool that I can utilize. Why don't you move up in the ranks? You can be one of my lieutenants whenever we build my castle.
I have to return to July the 25th, 1966, the day you broke it off with this girl, Sheila. You really did reveal rather a lot of yourself that day. But of course it...
All right, so this is the Texas Goat Radio Show. The Texas Goat Radio Show. And I'm your host, Matorius. As always, till next time.